Okay, good afternoon. We've got our panel here, we've got everybody, and we've got lots of volume on the mic. Hello everybody, my name is Brad Barbeau. I'm on the faculty of the College of Business, and I'm also a faculty associate with the Institute for Innovation and Economic Development here at CSU Monterey Bay. I'd like to welcome everybody to CSU Monterey Bay, those who've come from outside, plus students and our speakers. And this is our 5th biannual, we run it once a semester, so twice a year, Entrepreneurship Forum that we have run here. We hold the forums each semester highlighting entrepreneurs and the practice of entrepreneurship. These forums are a joint project of the College of Business and the Institute for Innovation and Economic Development. The goal of the forums is to bring people together, students, faculty, staff, community members, and entrepreneurs, to engage with the issues, challenges, and opportunities of entrepreneurship, and to share learnings about the practice of entrepreneurship. The title of today's forum is Tales from the Trenches. We have with us today a panel of successful entrepreneurs from the area who will be sharing their experiences with and insights into the practice of entrepreneurship, giving us their view from the trenches. So I periodically find myself reflecting on the question of why I am so taken with entrepreneurship. A simple answer is that I like building new things. New things, things that didn't exist before. And those things that I build or help build, those businesses and products and services that I help create, those are my contributions to the world. Apple, a company that we're all very familiar with, a company that has remained, at least so far, highly entrepreneurial despite its size and age, recently launched an advertising campaign for the iPad Air, which I assume many, if not most of you, have seen. And it features Robin Williams reading poetry by Walt Whitman. The key phrase in that ad is a line from Whitman's poem, "O Me, O Life," that the powerful play goes on and you may contribute a verse. That the powerful play goes on and you may contribute a verse. This is linking innovation and art, and I think that's a really important link. It's an old saw that the practice of entrepreneurship is both art and science. It is science in that there are methods and practices that, if you follow them, will increase your chance of success. And it is art in that entrepreneurship requires creativity, not formulas. But it is also true that the practice of entrepreneurship is art. For what is entrepreneurship but the creation of something that wasn't there before? The creation of a new business that did not exist. The shaping of a collection of people into a purposeful organization. The solving of problems faced by people and society through the novel application of existing technology and the creative application of novel technology. This is art. The businesses we create can be as beautiful as the Mona Lisa, as mysterious as the pyramids, as beguiling as Botticelli's Venus, and as well constructed as a novel by Cormac McCarthy. It doesn't always feel like art. A lot of the time it feels like a lot of hard work. But it is in those fleeting moments of being in touch with the wonder of what has been created that I'm reminded of why I study entrepreneurship and of why I am an entrepreneur. So we have with us today 4 entrepreneurs who have shaped the shapeless clay, who have picked up the brush to transform a blank canvas into a thriving business. They are here today to share with us a part of their journey and the lessons that they have learned along the way so that we may learn from them. We have with us today Paul Temple of Advanced Onion, Ben Holber of Yoderm, Shawn Bakker of Bakker Construction, and Carlos Lopez of Lopez Tax Services. 4 different entrepreneurs, 4 very different businesses, each with its own tale to tell. I'm going to ask each of them to come up and say a few words about their experiences and learnings. Each of them will speak for about 15 minutes, after which we'll have the opportunity for discussion between the audience and the panel. During their talks, you may have questions. I hope you have questions that occur to you. On your seat, you are either sitting on or you picked up and pushed away or put it in your notebook or whatever, but there's a card that was on your seat. And the idea behind those cards is for you to write down any questions that you have and pass those in. And I've got a couple of people. Where are my people who are going to pick up the cards? So if you've got a question on a card, what you do is you just hold it up in the air, and one of them will come rushing over to pick up that card, and they're going to pass them up to me to pose to the panel. And we'll actually pose the questions at the end after they've all spoken. Okay? So let me begin this by introducing Mr. Paul Temple. Paul is the founder, president, and CEO of Advanced Onion. And I'm really curious to find out how he got to that name, so I'm hoping he'll explain that. Advanced Onion specializes in identity and advanced intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance technologies in support of the Department of Defense, Department of Homeland Security, and the intelligence community. And I'm reminded of the clip that I saw the other day about the NSA. It said the NSA, the only branch of the government that's listening. He also serves as an advisor to the Defense Manpower Data Center on a variety of operational program support initiatives. Following a 21-year military career, he must have started into the military when he's 2, because he just does not look old enough to have done that. Following a 21-year military career, Paul served in numerous senior management positions for companies such as SGI, NetApp, and SAIC. He has a first-hand, in-depth understanding of the system integration services community and federal programs. Paul draws on this expertise to champion business development activities and program captures for high-performance computing, data management, visualization, sensor technologies, and advanced analytics, which puts him in the sweet spot of a whole host of things that are happening right now. He holds an MBA and an MA-level certificate in criminal justice and a BS in business. In addition, he's a graduate, wait for this, of the FBI National Academy Counterintelligence Technician course, the Defense Language Institute Survival, Evasion, Resistance, and Escape High-Risk School, and the French Commando School, and many other career supportive courses. Let us give a warm welcome to Paul Temple.
Wow, I kind of impressed myself there. I think the place to start is kind of reiterating background, because it's hard to get to the state of it actually being kind of consumed as art to me, because it's really about the imagination of standing up a business and then having the gumption to follow through. So if you don't have imagination and kind of passion for what you're trying to do, then there's no real starting place to really get it done. And I feel that of the entrepreneurs that I've been around that have been successful, it really is about the want for getting something done that you feel there's been either one, a gap, or two, you feel that you can do better or try to do better at what you see. So raised in Mississippi, that probably was a giant catalyst for me joining the Army. I lived on a bayou down there and saw that, it's either working in hometown USA or getting the hell out of there and figuring out something a little bit sexier to do. So joining the Army after University of Southern Mississippi and photojournalism seemed like a darn good idea. So as a counterintelligence agent, I had a myriad of different assignments. They ranged from tactical assignments, which one of those happened to be here at Fort Ord way back in the day, which made me fall in love with this area. And then I went on to become a warrant officer. I'm not sure if y'all are familiar with that, but a warrant officer in the U.S. Army, being a counterintelligence guy, working for a host of different assignments with Defense Intelligence Agency, with Special Operations Command, with a bunch of different other combatant commands. I believe it's there where I kind of fell in love with understanding, in my case, and I'll try my best not to speak in any acronyms, the operational needs of the folks that are going in harm's way or that are supporting the people that are going in harm's way with the military or first responders. And so after my career, I looked for an opportunity to, one, make more money than I did in the military, but two, to try to figure out really how to take my keen understanding and get to those types of things that I thought were important as far as delivery. And first one that reached out to me was Silicon Graphics. And back then, in year 2000, it was one of the darlings of Silicon Valley. It was at one of its heights of about $8 billion company, and they asked me to come in and be a business development manager, which really means interpreting a bunch of stuff that I really necessarily didn't understand from an engineering perspective into what that type of technology company could do for the Department of Defense or the intelligence community. So it was high-performance computational capabilities of a very technical leading company, and being able to show where, for example, in a Department of Defense environment, where if sarin gas was released in New York City, that a weather climate model could be depicted in a high-performance computational environment, and you could actually see where bad things could happen to good people and mitigate risk. So I could tell that story because I had a certain amount of background. And so moving on to other technology companies, I found that people were seeking my advice, and that advice resulted in me even consulting externally, as long as there was no conflict, to other companies that wanted to know how they could take their product or services and reinterpret it from a marketing perspective or business development perspective into the Department of Defense or the intelligence community. So I would do that for a little coin on the side. So working at Network Appliance, a seemingly very boring data storage company that makes about $10 billion a year, same thing. What does their data storage enable? And I was able to put their storage devices on things like the back of robotic vehicles and unmanned aerial vehicles and other key programs that caused NetApp to earn a lot of money and also caused me to start fine-tuning the things that I was truly interested in, which was making this bridge, if you will. So then I was recruited to be a vice president at SAIC, running a very large part of their portfolio, primarily focused on biometrics, identity intelligence, and military analytics intelligence, focused on linking bad guy data to events and to what's called multiple intelligence layers. So that's really all sorts of different data sources linked together so you can come up with a better picture in order to present to a leader or a decision maker so that they can take action, and whatever that action is really up to the agency that has the data. So blah, blah, blah. So from there, I kind of figured it out. I'm being solicited by In-Q-Tel, which is a venture catalyst company owned by the CIA, which is up in Silicon Valley. They look for private venture and really kind of ramp up and invest in companies that are at the bleeding edge of providing everything from big data, the cliche of the month, or advanced analytics and link analytics and all sorts of other interesting things. In doing that, they asked me to advise companies and look at other areas where I can tether and draw that business development marketing bridge between the companies. And therein is really where Advanced Onion, originally called IX3, Integrated Intelligent Ideas, started. So it was a tax vehicle for me to be able to consult to people and have it pay the corporation rather than me, so I can make a little bit more money off the tax advantage. So I rode that out until after my tenure at SAIC, I decided to make a go of it alone. Not only consulting, but garnering a contract with the Department of Defense as a subject matter expert in identity intelligence. And from that point on, quite frankly, it's a matter of looking at other models, banking on some great mentors and some other great leaders that have done it better than I have, but providing a signature to advanced onion layers of technology and the different types of layers that we provide, which is in consulting still to those types of companies that want to understand how to better draw a bridge and capture business in the federal market space. Two, doing research and development on advanced analytical products and capabilities that, for example, the intelligence officer of the Army might want to look at for future development. And then three, capturing and winning business with the Department of Defense and other federal agencies so that I can actually have employees working on those contracts, which are in some cases are 1 year and in other cases are maybe 5 years long. And some people refer to that as a body shop, but we as a company have prided ourselves on making sure that we have the right type of benefits and give the right type of attention so that when we charge the government $100 an hour for an employee, we're paying the employee maybe $60 an hour, so the revenue difference comes to the company minus the benefits that we have to pay for. So there's a margin model there. I didn't know all of that 4 or 5 years ago. These are things that have to be learned, and that's not part of the art. That's part of the responsibilities that come along with growth, if you will. So where we're going is we also are a value-added reseller of technology. So now all of these Rolodex points of contact that I've developed over the years are now also clients to where I resell Silicon Graphics technologies into organizations or agencies for a profit. They give me an advantage being a service-disabled, veteran-owned small business, which is a moniker for the federal workspace that gives us advantages on contracts and such. But I think more than anything, it really is boiled down to having the gumption to step forward, realizing that the losses that we go after are absolutely imperative to learn on how to fine-tune things. And it reminds me of when I was retiring from the Army, I went up to Silicon Valley and I had a hit parade of love, if you will, of target companies that I wanted to work for. And I had 10 of these companies identified, and I brought a suit and tie up there and I got a hotel room. And I cold called in reverse order, with the best being at the last, each of those companies. And by the time I got to the last company, even though I had to kind of BS a little bit, I knew exactly what to say in order to be solicited for a position. So I will say that that's the same thing as you learn, not that you have to BS, but that you really learn from your mistakes and you fine-tune the things that you truly want to go after and define the company that I have or your company with things you do. So I've also started another company called Think Regiment, where we're kind of a think tank, if you will, doing research and development activities and some very unique projects. We're going after what's called small business innovative research grants, which are very unique in the defense space. And we have several other things cooking. So entrepreneurship for me is the logical next tangent of my life that I'm very happy to be in. And quite frankly, I wish I would have done it sooner, but I don't know if I would have known enough to do it or had the background to be able to do it in order to make what I do currently work. It doesn't mean other businesses wouldn't. So with that, I'll, Brad, open it up for questions or? Okay, at the end. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So if you have questions, things that you'd like to find out more about from Paul, please jot those down and we'll get them collected up here. But now I'd like to introduce our next speaker, Ben Holber, who is the co-founder of Yoderm. Ben says, after graduating from college, my longtime friend Ryan Hambley and I saw an opportunity so promising, it inspired us to dedicate our lives to making it a reality. That's truly the statement of an entrepreneur who's hooked. That opportunity has become Yoderm. Yoderm is a web platform that connects people seeking to get rid of their acne with U.S. board-certified dermatologists via the internet. The dermatologist uses photos and information that users provide to create a personalized treatment plan entirely online, even including prescription medication. Yoderm is a pioneer in the emerging market for telemedicine, and they have plans far beyond just the acne world, but right now they're working on owning the acne world. Yoderm was the 2012 winner of the Startup Challenge Business Plan Competition Venture Division. And just as a side note for the students and people who know about that, they found out about the competition. They literally found out that the competition existed. At least the mythology is they found out like 20 minutes before the deadline for entering, threw something together, and then worked really, really hard to get it in shape and won the competition with a wonderful presentation. Please let us welcome Ben Holber.
Hey everybody. So my name is Ben Holber. As Brad said, I'm a co-founder of Yoderm. And we'll definitely get back to that in a second, but first off, just thanks Brad for the invitation. Really honored to be amongst these other panelists. I mean, I've been doing this for 2 years. My business is far from sustainable, and these guys have put together, incredible companies thus far. I mean, one is a commando. I mean, I'm not only humbled to be here, but probably a little emasculated, but whatever. So briefly on Yoderm. So what we do, as Brad kind of went into it, we allow anybody with acne to get a prescription medication from a dermatologist within 24 hours. So somebody comes to our site, they take a couple pictures of their skin, and they answer a couple questions. Then one of our dermatologists examines their pictures and information, and then creates a personalized treatment plan specifically for their acne severity and their skin type. And then if it includes a script, then what we do is we send that script to the local pharmacy, and they pick it up the very next day. Right? Pretty simple. Nothing too crazy. So Brad said that the theme for tonight was Tales from the Trenches, and I'm going to take some liberties here. But as everybody knows, in the trenches comes from trench warfare, right? And for pretty much everybody I'm sure knows trench warfare. The way it works is two enemies line up, and they create a series of trenches to create fronts, and they battle over what's called no man's land in between. Each trench is really well defended and very well fortified. A force advances onto the enemy's trench in order to capture it. If they are successful, then the enemy will retreat. But where do they retreat to? They retreat to another trench, like right there. Like it could be, 200 feet, it could be a couple miles. But I mean, essentially the way it works is every battle kind of goes on trench to trench. And so I'm not going to sit here and tell you that entrepreneurship is like war. I'm in skincare, so it's a little different than war. But I mean, I do think that kind of the idea that like the real success and the real big wins from every business start from all the little wins. That the incremental problem solving of the single task in front of you is really what you have to focus on. I mean, for us, we have this like huge vision to create this online, almost Amazon of telemedical services specifically for dermatology. But I mean, really to get there, the distance is huge. I mean, if we're able to be successful, I mean, it's going to be years down the line. I mean, right now we go one problem after the other. I think it's about really being able to focus on that next trench without being intimidated by the 14 trenches behind it. So 2 years ago, me and Ryan, we were 22 years old. We just graduated from college, and we had this idea. Let's make this online dermatology platform. Yeah, neither of us have any money. We're not doctors, and we don't know a thing about web development. That's a great idea. Okay. So what are we going to do? We went and we just talked to as many developers as we could. We're like, we just need to get this thing built. Like, let's go do it. So we talked to, like 4 or 5 of these guys, and, we tried to get, like, decent people, and we talked to them, and, everybody's like, you guys don't know a thing about web development, you aren't doctors, and you're broke. So it didn't really work out great. But then we got actually introduced to Terry Lowe over at Byte Technology, a little bit down the road, and Terry was great. He politely told us that we couldn't afford him, and he said, we don't accept equity, but you guys should enter the business plan competition. Check it out. So we went, we did, and as Brad kind of said, it was about 4:40 p.m. in the middle of March in 2012, and we showed up back at our place a little sad that we didn't get Terry's business. And then we go online, and the deadline's at 5. And so we're like, throw together this application that's just looks like hieroglyphics. It's just like ridiculous. And somehow we got into the competition, which was really great because then we had a lot of time to prepare. And so we worked our tails off really to put together a presentation because we knew that the only way to be able to take those meetings, right, with all those people is if we weren't doctors and we weren't web developers and we were broke. Like, we need some sort of validation. I mean, we knew that, like, at the time, that competition would marginally increase our value as 22-year-old nobodies, much more so than it would a lot of these other people that also had full-time jobs and were doing something else. So we focused all of our attention onto that. And, with a lot of hard work, I think definitely a little bit of luck, we were fortunate enough to win. So that was pretty sweet. It really helped us out a lot. And so after that, it's kind of interesting, though. We proved that we were decent presenters, right? But, I mean, we had no proof that we could execute on this, novel of a business plan that we put together. And anybody who's tried to execute on a business plan, I'm sure most of these guys up here will tell you that the second step is always wrong and the first step is usually wrong, right? I mean, reality and actually executing on that is entirely different. I hate to quote Donald Rumsfeld, but the unknown unknowns are pretty massive when it comes to actually being able to forecast what your problems are going to be. You really don't know what you don't know, right? So at that point, when we started hitting those unknown unknowns, that's when those trenches started to line up, one after the other, after the other. For us, in order to provide our service adequately, this online dermatology consultation, we need a functional platform. We need the platform to be aesthetically pleasing enough that somebody's going to actually try to do this new online medicine. I mean, imagine getting a doctor on Craigslist, because that's initially like what we had to, be above. We had to get doctors. We didn't have any doctors at the time, so we had to go and find them. And then we also needed specific telemedical medical malpractice insurance. And that, at the time, nobody did that. So we had to figure out how to solve that. We also needed legal representation. We had to get anything from incorporated to dealing with like the corporate practice of medicine. I mean, like all this stuff at the time, literally, we won this competition. We didn't know about like half this stuff. And like we tried to prepare as much as we could, but it was just one thing after another. Like, wow, like that's not it. Like that's not what I thought it would be or whatnot. So I mean, like flash forward to today and it's like, we have a functional platform. We have a lot of this stuff up. We treat patients every day. We have a network of dermatologists. We have the insurance and whatnot. I mean, how did we get here in 2 years? Personally, the way that I kind of reflect on it is it kind of comes back to first off the trenches. I think that we did a decent job of just taking the baby steps and understanding that the single problem in front of us was the only one that had to get done right now. I mean, for us, as opposed to having a whole bunch of stuff in parallel, we were able to like focus, and that was really helpful. And we weren't, we had this big vision, but we were like, okay, instead of doing all of dermatology, we're just going to do acne. And instead of trying to go statewide, we're just going to do California. And as opposed to trying to like prove out 7 different marketing channels, we're going to hit Google AdWords and just one at a time and try to figure that out. And then the other thing that I think in entrepreneurship specifically, and like I said, this is coming from a guy who been doing this for 2 years, and these guys have a lot more credibility behind their name. But from what I've learned, I truly believe the single greatest factor in a successful entrepreneur is resourcefulness, besides determination or tenacity for sure, but resourcefulness. I think the ability when you're creating a new company and it's your own, there is nobody there to tell you what the answer is, right? There's no manual to do that. So actually being able to learn how to solve that problem with all of the resources around you it's huge everywhere, right? I mean, like, if you're part of a business, it's it's massive. Your boss will absolutely love you, right? But still, the support you have in your own company, the support you have within a company, or if you're making, or if you're doing like a nonprofit, that's not in a realm that you're creating yourself, I think that there's a massive difference, because in entrepreneurship, you don't have that support. And so there is a much greater premium on that resourcefulness and that ability for you to be able to learn what you have to know. 1 second. So one thing that's kind of interesting that we're in the middle of figuring out right now at Yodem is right after this competition, we just had to make this platform. We had to go in through all those trenches, which was a very specific skill set to learn, just how to go and use that resourcefulness and go after these single problems. And that was great, right, for just getting this thing live. It was awesome. But starting a company and growing a company are so different. I mean, I can't begin to tell you. There's the way that we kind of, look at, I guess, any successful company, particularly ourselves, that there's 2 engines that drive a successful company. There is a value engine, which basically says somebody is willing to give you money for the service you provide. And then there's the growth engine, which is essentially, can you get people, or can you get the next marginal customer profitably, so you can actually continue to grow the company, right? Those 2 things. I think we were able to understand the value engine and the value proposition immensely. But the growth engine, that's tough. It's super hard, because you're going against all these now much different external factors that actually, are within, like for us, sales and marketing. I mean, we go and we compete against Proactive. We compete against the dermatologist down the street. We compete against Neutrogena, right? And so suddenly, our cost to acquire customers, probably one of the greatest metrics, within kind of that growth engine is, it's suddenly not what we expected. It's suddenly like those forces come together and aggregate into this very, very, very complicated, interesting system. And so, yeah, I mean, I guess my point here is just that I think the skill set changed quite a bit. We had this, it took us a while, but then we figured out the skill set in order to start the company. And right now, we're in the middle of the skill set in order to learn how to grow the company. A couple things that are different. I mean, understanding how to delegate things. I mean, that's huge. I mean, something we didn't know. We're now starting to have employees. We have interns. We have dealing with these doctors, understanding kind of what we are as managers. I'm seeing a lot of young faces out here, and so I think that, this is particularly true to, a lot of you guys. If you've already been in business for years and you decide to start your own company, it's one thing. But, I mean, for me, I had internships, I had jobs, but I didn't have, right after college, started this thing. And the complexity of trying to understand something that you never saw or felt done successfully before, you didn't experience that success, that is a tough challenge. That is an interesting problem, getting that perspective. So I mean, I'm just looking, like I said, a lot of you young people. Just curious, can I get a show of hands? How many people here want to start their own company one day? That's awesome. Seriously, that was a lot of people. That was great. So okay, just to wrap up. I think that any of these guys would tell you that starting your own company and growing your own company is not glamorous, right? I mean, you guys see The Social Network, or you read about WhatsApp, and you're like, drop the or whatever it is. And And I just think that, yeah, it's definitely a grind. It's definitely trench by trench. But I can tell you that, in my short tenure as a business owner, and with admittedly little to compare it to, I have found it to be incredibly rewarding. Like, in all honesty, I think that, you hear a lot about the perks of being a business owner as setting your own hours and being your own boss. And, I think that there's definitely some merit to that. But, I mean, for me, I think Brad kind of touched on it a little bit. I mean, it's really, you created something out of an idea, and suddenly, you have this kind of beautiful responsibility to yourself, to your employees, to your investors, to your coworkers, to keep this alive. You have this idea, you prove that it has value, and now it's your job to continually breathe life into it. And yeah, I mean, and I think that for me, I guess if I want to kind of like project that out, and I don't mean to ramble on here on my soapbox, but if I were to project that out, I guess the way I see it is that that idea creates value, which then keeps it alive. And so it's your job to keep that engine growing. So you're not only working for your customers today, but you're also working for the hundreds of customers that you truly believe that you can help if this is a success. You truly are doing it for the value you provide to each one of your stakeholders, that you like really think that this idea will add that value to everybody. And this all just comes from one idea and a small group of people just trying to keep it alive. And I mean, I guess for me, like that's definitely the reason why I probably, get up every morning and keep at it with Yoderm. So thanks a lot, guys. Really appreciate it. Hope I didn't ramble on too much.
Cool. That was great. Once again, reminding you to jot down your questions, and we'll get those collected. Our third speaker is Shawn Bakker. Actually, I've been forgetting to go forward with these. There we go. That was Ben. There's Shawn right there. Shawn is the president of Bakker Construction Incorporated, a design-build construction company serving the Central Coast from Carmel to San Jose. And also, he's vice president of the Tatum's Garden Foundation. Bakker Construction specializes in general contracting, design, new construction. I should have made these larger. I can't read my own notes. General contracting, design, new construction, remodels, additions, and is a 203K certified contractor. Raised in the Rocky Mountains by a family of 4 generations of building contractors. Let's see, we're pretty much spanning the country here with where everybody has originated. Shawn was on the job site from a very young age. With a background in fine woodworking and electrical and a degree in communications and psychology, Shawn's vast experience, along with the combined expertise of the Bakker construction team, ensures the highest quality outcome on all projects at all times. In 2013, Shawn and his wife Amanda, who is here, Amanda, where are you? Right down front here. Formed the Tatum's Garden Foundation as they built Tatum's Garden, a playground for all children in Salinas. Tatum's Garden is an inclusive playground designed to serve all children and their families regardless of physical ability. Tatum's Garden is named after Shawn and Amanda's 3-year-old daughter, Tatum, who was born with spina bifida. Let us welcome Shawn to the podium.
Good afternoon, everybody. Almost good evening. Not time for good night yet. I'm Shawn Bakker. I'm the president of Bakker Construction, as Brad said. My tale is a little bit different than probably some of these gentlemen because when I was a freshman in college, I left business school because I did not like business. So to all of you who were hoping that wasn't the case, I'm sorry to say. I did find quickly, though, that sometimes you pay for education and sometimes you have to pay for your education. So you guys are doing the right thing by choosing to pay for it. Very much similar to probably a lot of you, there's a lot of times in my life that I was very dissatisfied with things that happened. I started my business when I was 24 because I felt I was a better carpenter than my boss, and I could do it better than my boss. In my industry, it's very common to have very poor business owners and very poor business people, but very good carpenters. So essentially, a lot of people are technicians, but very few people are actually business owners. And that's something that took a long time to learn the difference, because in our industry, we see a lot of, if you can build it better, you might as well go do it yourself. Well, the problem with that, and that is true in most businesses, is that just because you can doesn't mean you should. Because sometimes you are a great carpenter and you should just be a great carpenter. So I did struggle with some of that. A little background, we do have 3 children. Amanda and I have been married for 14 years, 3 children, Tatum being the youngest of it. If those of you in here have not heard of Tatum's Garden, I encourage you to look it up. It is something that has become the passion for what our entire life is. Talking about creating things, as Brad did, and being artists, I found that most things in life, and those of you that are students probably can still relate to that, is there's usually something missing. You're pursuing something because there's a void somewhere, and so we're really trying to pursue balance. And in my life, I had a lot of dissatisfaction, like I said, dissatisfaction that I couldn't put my finger on. It wasn't that things happened negatively, it was that nothing was ever good enough for what I wanted it to be. And I really didn't find an answer to that until about a year ago. A very good friend of mine gave me a quote by an artist named Martha Graham. It says, "No artist is satisfied. There's only one kind of divine dissatisfaction which keeps us marching and separates us from the rest." And I would venture to say that my fellow entrepreneurs up here can relate to that there's something missing, and you are striving to fill that void. And until you find out what that is and get that right, really all you do is have a job. Because you can be a business owner who works for wages and can be your own boss, which means you are to blame for everything, and set your own hours, which means you work 24 hours a day. So until you find that why, you really are still an employee. You need to have a why that's big enough to really satisfy that dissatisfaction. Because rarely is someone going to start a business just because they think it'd be a fun idea. Because it doesn't take long to get into that and say, you know what, it would be a lot easier to go get a job. And there's a lot of business owners, and I know you guys can probably all think of them, who are business owners and in reality they just have a job. Because there's a difference. And I think that difference needs to be learned in the trenches. If I can steal that from you, Ben, because I don't know how easy it is to teach, because you can't teach why. You can't teach someone why their heart says, I just have to do this. I've been told no too many times, but I still have to do this. Because there's that dissatisfaction inside of you. And as students, I look at all of you sitting here and just say, man, I used to sit in these rooms, and especially as a business student, and say, what am I doing in here? This is not what I want to do. I ended up doing communication and psychology, which really spoke more to my philosophical view on business ownership. I have learned the hard way on all of the important things of business strategy and business planning and delegation and budgeting and all of those sort of things. Part of it's because of my industry. It is accepted in my industry to just wing it. You know, you're probably going to go over budget anyway. You're probably going to be late anyway, and that's what contractors do. So you just do what other contractors do. Well, we weren't okay with that. We were, again, dissatisfied with the norm on general contracting. So we decided to become better business owners. Again, when I was 24, I started doing this. And I think I've just hit the point where I realized I have no idea what I'm doing. So that's good. We're getting somewhere. In 2007, our family moved from Colorado to California, which was a great time when you're a general contractor because the housing market crashed. And so again, really smart business planning. So any of you who really are good at planning like me, don't do that. So what we found was the Small Business Development Center in Salinas. Essentially, I found a way to do projects that no one else was willing to do. I had a big why, and that why was I had a family to take care of. I had just moved from Colorado to California, and my wife's family essentially was looking at me saying, so what are you going to do? You going to make this thing work? So we found something called the 203K, which, long story short, is the Federal Housing Authority, helps people rehab their homes, but you get paid after the project is done. Most contractors cannot do that, and neither could we. You needed to get paid up front or during the project. So we approached the Small Business Development Center and looked for how do we accomplish this goal. Again, I was still working on little whys, on one little step at a time, as Ben had said. Through doing that, we learned that as long as we just got up every day and went to work, and as long as we got up and did the best that we could, that's all we could really ask for. Through that process in 2010, we were awarded the Small Business Administration's Entrepreneurial Success Award, just really because we got up and went to work. We had a why that we had to fill. In 2010, we also were awarded the Salute to Small Business by KSBW and Union Bank. Again, for that same reason. We weren't trying to get an award. We weren't trying to get some accolade. We had a big void to fill. So with all of this dissatisfaction, all these things are happening, yet I still wasn't satisfied with it. Yet there was still something that said, but what else? I didn't come to do this just to get wages. I didn't come to do this, honestly, to get profit. I never decided that I wanted to be a business owner and decide what my margins were going to be and what my net profit was going to be and how do I figure out what my gross revenue needs to be. I was just trying to pay the bills because I had a wife and 2 kids at the time. So my why was pretty big, but it was just big enough to go to work. And that's where my philosophical view really comes in, because life is what really dictates what you're going to do with your business or what you're going to do, period. And you can't always control that. We can't control the economy, can't control what we're going to go and do for our next job as we're trying to build our business. So all of this time, we're building Bakker Construction. In some ways, we're stumbling through it. We are learning how to be good business owners. 2010, just after we had just won all of these awards, we had 5 large projects going. I'm 4th generation general contractor, but the first general contractor who was ever able to not be in the field full time and actually was running a business. So I'm very different than my family. September 28th, 2013, our daughter Tatum was born, scheduled C-section down here at CSUMB. And this is where the life part happens, and your why has to be big enough to get off the floor. Tatum was born by C-section and was undiagnosed with spina bifida, which means there was a lesion in her back where her spinal cord stopped forming, and actually the nerves had spread out to the exterior of her back. That causes swelling of the brain, because your spinal fluid is not functioning correctly, and so she had something called hydrocephalus. Within 2 hours of being born, Tatum was rushed to UCSF. So Amanda was able to touch her fingers once before she was taken away. The next time Amanda saw her was 3 brain surgeries and a spinal cord surgery later. What happened during this period, we lived in San Francisco for 3 months at the hospital, and my business, which truly was not at the time, just completely fell apart. I gave close to $60,000 back to clients. I handed 2 projects over to other contractors, and I had to let go of 7 of my 8 employees. So the big knee-jerk reaction was, at what point was I running a business? At what point did I have systems in place to cover life? At what point did I have planning in place to say, if something happens to me, I need other people to have a why big enough to be here? So that became our new why. Tatum recovered. Tatum is doing incredibly well. Tatum is 3 years old now. She is in a wheelchair. She doesn't have use of her legs or her lower extremities. And so we had to learn what our new life was going to be like. We also had to make a decision. Do we continue to do Bakker Construction, or do we just go get a job? Well, bottom line is I couldn't get a job because I couldn't get the insurances that I needed to cover Tatum because she had a pre-existing condition. So I had to bring health insurance into my company, which is something that contractors don't do because you're trying to keep a bottom line as tight as you can, just so my daughter could get her next wheelchair, just so my daughter could receive additional surgeries, those sort of things. Not to mention there's 2 older kids who are saying, hey, you know, we're here too. So our why just kept getting bigger. What that caused us to do was address what would satisfy us. What is this dissatisfaction? And we realized it wasn't in business. I'd never pursued profits. I'd never tried to have X amount of money, a big enough house, a big enough car. We just wanted to make sure we got by. And that actually became a little bit of a mistake for us, because you can't run a business without making profit. And if you can, then you're a nonprofit, you know. So there's a big difference in there. And the other realization was that since we weren't looking for profits, we actually felt a little guilty about having profits, about making all of this extra money that other people didn't make. So there had to be a philosophical change that just said, we are going to be okay with making money, but what we choose to do with it is going to be the difference. In 2012, again, life with business, we were on a family road trip, the first trip that we were able to take as a family while running a business, because the joys of being an entrepreneur is vacation time goes out the window a lot of times. Again, unless your why is big enough to put your family and your life in the right place, it's too easy to miss it. We're driving through Idaho. My 3-year-old son at the time got car sick and threw up, and there was one exit, and so I got off as quick as I could. Looked on our phone and for a playground nearby, because we just needed, frankly, to clean him up and clean out the car, and also to unwind. And we pulled into a place called Brooklyn's Playground. And Brooklyn's Playground was built for a 4-year-old girl in Pocatello, Idaho, with spina bifida by the community. And in one breath, my wife said, we need to do this back home. And my answer was, no, someone else can do this back home, because, you know, that's just not what we do. But again, our why became bigger. So the fall of 2012, the dream was born. In 8 months, we raised $1.3 million. We formed a nonprofit foundation with an actual 501c3 with the federal and state government. We started the build for Tatum's Garden in August, and in 2 weeks, with 3,000 volunteers, we built the playground structure. And in an additional 2 months, we finished the actual park area. And on December 8th of this year, we opened Tatum's Garden, hoping we would get some people to show up. We were hoping for up to 200 people a week, just kind of like a regular park. And we have averaged 1,500 to 2,000 people a week at the playgrounds. So,
thank you.
The next step in our learning on what we were going to do is, how do we handle running a business and running a nonprofit? Our nonprofit takes care of the entire maintenance of the playground, because, quite frankly, the city couldn't afford to do the maintenance on the playground. Our nonprofit pays for the insurance, because when the city doesn't do maintenance, the city doesn't cover it with insurance. So we're learning how to be business owners and learning how to run a nonprofit, and that's where the why came together for us, that if your business makes money, you can do things with it that are bigger than yourself. And that's what connected in this last year for us. Being in the trenches, pulling yourself up off the floor and having only one choice, but that's to say, let's take the next step, let's see what the next step is, has finally come together to say, if you're successful, you can do things that are greater than you are. And so that's how we've changed our entire company. We haven't done it because we're trying to make profits, and we haven't done it because we're trying to be awarded things, and we haven't done it, quite frankly, because we want to build a better cabinet or a better house. We want to do something better with people. And so our company doesn't focus on building a better box. We focus on the process to make that box better. Who is it that lives inside of your home that makes it a home and not a house? Because at the end of the day, when you call a contractor, you're going to get a new kitchen. That's what you called him for. But the process from how you got to the old kitchen to the new one is all that matters. Because you're not going to walk into a new kitchen and have someone say, look at my beautiful kitchen, and leave it there. There's always a but. And that but is, but we went over budget, but the contractor was never here on Fridays, but we didn't know what was going on, but somebody stole something from our house. There's too many buts. And that's the part that is remembered. So I would really encourage all of you that there's a big why for you. Whether it's why you're in this room right now, there's a why to why you want to start your own business. Almost every hand went up in the air when Ben asked. All of these gentlemen have whys to why they started their business. You need to really know what your why is, and it needs to be big enough to survive what life brings. It needs to be big enough to have someone tell you, I'm not going to give you any money, and go, well, my why's still big enough, you know. That's a big deal, because that's heartbreaking, but his why was still big enough to say, let's go do this. And then I think the next step, and both of these gentlemen have talked about, is you're never done learning, because you don't know what you don't know. You always have to realize there's something else out there. There's something that's going to make me better. But the key is to make you a good entrepreneur and a good business owner is why are you the right person for this? Why are you doing something that already exists? Maybe it doesn't exist exactly how you want to do it, but it exists somehow. Both of these gentlemen have both mentioned things that already existed, but they had a better way to do it. Not because they are smarter, but because their why was bigger to what it is. So if I can leave you all with anything, is find your why and run with it, and don't let go of it, because there's so much that you're going to hit that are good things and bad things, that the why keeps you focused and centered. We still remember every day that we have 3 little kids, and that's what our why is. I mentioned some of the other awards before. I mentioned some of the hard things that we've had to go through. We were just awarded the Service Above Self Community Resource of the Year Award for over 4 counties for Tatum's Garden. We were also awarded the Spirit of Community by the Salinas Chamber of Commerce. And when we went home from the Chamber of Commerce is tomorrow, but when we came home from the other award ceremony, and Amanda and I had gotten this huge award, and then she spoke at an Empower Women's Luncheon at Corral, and all of these great things happened, guess what happened every time? Someone needed their diaper changed. Somebody left their bike in the driveway. Somebody spilled a glass of milk. And the why immediately came back to the awards don't mean anything. The why was those 3 kids to keep us going forward. Because we got home and the awards were like, okay, great, we're done. So if I can leave you with that, have a big enough why, and absolutely anything that you're going to pursue, any trench that you run into, you're going to be able to overcome. Thank you.
So I promised you at the outset that we'd have 4 different businesses with 4 different entrepreneurs, each with their own different stories. And so far, we're 3 for 3 on that, and I'm sure that we will be 4 for 4 with our 4th here. Our final speaker today is Carlos Lopez. Carlos is the founder and president of Lopez Tax Service and the Latino Tax Professionals Association, located in Salinas, California. He holds a BA degree from Pacific Union College and a Certificate of Management Development for Entrepreneurs from UCLA's Anderson School of Management. He has been active in tax preparation and representation before the IRS. If you're getting audited, he's the man to talk to, for over 31 years. His experience includes developing qualifying continuing education and training programs for the California Tax Education Council and for the IRS Enrolled Agent and Registered Tax Return Preparer programs. Mr. Lopez is a lecturer and presenter for the IRS National Tax Forums and holds several awards and honors. Please welcome Carlos Lopez to the platform.
Well, thanks, Brad, for inviting me here. I'd also like to thank my son for encouraging me to participate in the pitch 2 weeks ago. So my story, of course, is different than the other presenters you just heard. So I'll tell you a little bit about how I took the entrepreneurial path. I was fortunate to be brought up in a family of entrepreneurs. Started off at a very early age. My grandmother, my maternal grandmother, owned a small restaurant and candy store in Fresno, California. And I always admired her because she always had money. And I thought that was pretty good.
Turn Shawn.
Oh, there we go. darn it. Then my dad, when he retired from the Air Force, bought a small restaurant up in St. Helena, California, and he ran that for about a year and a half. And I kind of fell in love with the restaurant business at that time. I was going to school to become a doctor, and I got my degree in pre-med biology and chemistry. Actually got into medical school and absolutely hated it. It was probably the most stressful time of my life. So I came back home and I worked in a pathology lab performing autopsies, so I get used to touching bodies. And so just to let you know, you can change careers. So one day I was up in the mess hall, or the cafeteria, pretty much a messy place, and I heard the supervisor saying that the hospital was going to get a brand new MRI, which in those days was very high-tech stuff, and that we were going to have movie stars, kings and queens from foreign nations coming over to the hospital, and they were going to build a 4-star kitchen, and he was taking applications. So when I worked for my dad, I learned how to cook, and most importantly, I learned how to flip eggs over in a pan without breaking the yolks. So I went up to him and I said, you know what, I'd like to try out for this program. You're going to be teaching people how to become chefs, and I like to cook, and I'm pretty sure I'm not going to be a medical doctor. And he goes, hey, wait a minute, aren't you the guy that works in the morgue working on bodies? I go, yeah. And he goes, you can't come anywhere near here for 24 hours. I said, all right, calm down. So I came back the next day, and he said, well, what can you do? And I said, I can flip eggs in a pan without breaking the yolks. He goes, really? Let me see it. So here was my test to become a chef. So I go up there, did my thing, and he goes, you're in. So started the chef program. Did that for about 3.5 years. Really enjoyed it. And I wanted to do more than anything else, what I wanted to do with my life was start a restaurant. So I knew nothing about running a business. I'd been going to school for several years, been going to chef school, pre-med school. I knew nothing. So one of my wife's friends said, you know what, we're selling a restaurant. Would you be interested in buying it? And it was a franchise restaurant. And he priced it very well. He wanted to get out of it. So we made him a lowball price and we bought it. And the thing about the franchise business that I enjoyed was a lot of these franchises have systems in place. They teach you how to do things. They teach you how to hire employees. They teach you about the menu. They teach you about locations. They teach you about advertising. They do charge a premium for that, but you can walk into it without any experience. Of course, I had experience cooking, but I didn't have any experience in business. So that was very helpful. And about 1.5 years later, I realized that I had bought a baby that was never going to grow up. 7 days a week, you work the holidays, you work the long hours, you work when everybody else wants to go out and have fun. So the owner of the shopping center came up and said, you know what, I want to buy your restaurant. How much would you sell it for? And I went, whoa, here we go. So I thought for a moment, I gave him the price. It was 3 times what I had paid for it. 2 weeks later, he came back and said, here's a check, I'm buying your place. I go, whoa, I think I want more. He said, no, this is what you're going to get. I said, all right, I'll take it. Now tell me, why are you buying my place for so much money? Well, Burger King wants this spot, and they're going to pay 4 times the rent you are, and so we want you out of here. So I took my money, left. So I didn't have a job, but I had a bunch of money. And I thought, what am I going to do next? Well, I have a very good friend who's a CPA, and so I called him up and I said, hey, Cecil, you guys need any help over there at your CPA firm? He said, yeah, Carlos, come on over. So I went over there, and I was the only one there that spoke Spanish in those days. So I worked there, and I really liked it. I really enjoyed the accounting work. I enjoyed what I enjoyed the most. Well, let me go back just a hair. So the first year I owned the restaurant, I did the accounting, I did the payroll with the help of the franchisor, and I went to a CPA to get my taxes done. I walked in there, I gave him the financial statements, I gave him the P&L, payroll reports, so on and so on, depreciation. And he charged me $300 to do my taxes. And I went through the roof. I can't believe it. $300. And that's like $1,000 today. So I went back driving to my restaurant going, what am I doing selling $5 plates of food when I know I'm smart enough to prepare a $300 tax return. So when the shopping center owner bought my restaurant, I immediately called Cecil and said, I want to work for you, Cecil. So I went in there, and of course he told me, well, you know, you have to be an auditor. In those days it required 800 hours, and I think the pay was like $6.50 an hour. I already had a family, I already had a house, and I go, Cecil, I can't work for that. And he goes, well, we have an enrolled agent in our office. Why don't you go talk to her? So I went, and I said, what in the heck is an enrolled agent? So I went to her office, sat down, and I said, what do you guys do? She goes, well, we're specialists in audit representation. When someone has an IRS audit, we can represent them at all administrative levels in all 50 states. And I went, well, now that sounds like a challenge. So I decided to pursue that career. So in '85, I heard about the amnesty for field workers. And the news was saying there's going to be 40,000 new tax preparers in Salinas alone. So I went to my boss. I said, look, let's get into this market. It's going to be huge. And he said, well, I don't speak Spanish. I said, well, I do. He goes, well, what if you leave? I said, well, make me a partner. Well, I really want my son-in-law to be the partner. I said, all right, I get it. So I'm going to start my own practice. I won't take any of your clients from you, but if they seek me, I am going to still prepare their taxes. But I want to stay friends with you. Let's continue to refer clients back and forth, because he had certain specialties. I spoke Spanish. So we're still friends till today. So I started my own business in '85, preparing tax returns. So my career until 2000 was being a dad. To me, that was my #1 career. So I had one office. Up until 1999, we had about 3 employees, prepared about 900 tax returns, had an accounting practice. It was fun. I enjoyed it. Enjoyed working 16 hours for myself instead of 8 hours for someone else. I enjoyed the stresses of tax season. I enjoyed all that fun stuff of being an entrepreneur. So in '99, I thought, since my son was graduating from high school in 2000, I could change careers and now be a business owner. So we wanted to teach tax school, to teach other people how to be preparers and to eventually expand our business. Well, in those days, the only people who could be California Tax Education Council providers had to have a minimum of 150 employees. And of course, there was only one company who could do that, and that was H&R Block. And the reason they had that in there is because California relied on H&R Block to administer the CTEC program. So 6 of us enrolled agents went up to Sacramento to see our local assemblyman to ask him to change the bill. So we're going up there, we're novices to the political system. We're up there with good intentions. I mean, we're there to change the law to help business people. First question out of his mouth, how many votes is this going to cost me? We're like, whoa. How many votes is this going to gain? 6? Get it? Because there were 6 of us there, so 6 votes. Okay. And how much money do you have for my campaign? Whoa. Don't you want to hear the merits of our case? No. So we walked out of there totally disillusioned, $5,000 out of our pockets, hoping that he would pass the law, and he did. So in 2000, we became CTEC vendors, started training our own employees. Up until then, even though I'm an enrolled agent, I didn't need to send them to get the CTEC, but I did send them to H&R Block. Then I was having to retrain people when they came back in. So we already had a training system set up, so we started training our own employees. Well, right away, I could see that we had some pretty sharp ones in there that could run their own office. And we had already developed policies and procedures. I had learned all this from my, franchise training. So I already knew how to build policies and procedures. I knew how to build, open to close on my business. So I had learned a lot from the franchise business of how to run my own business. So I copied that model. We opened up, so our plan was open up 1 office a year for forever. So we did. We opened up 1 office a year. Didn't have to capitalize it, didn't have to ask for loans. And then in 2007, we had 7 offices. One of the IRS employees who helped us and encouraged us to start electronic filing back in '88 came to the office and said, Carlos, the IRS is going to start registering tax preparers. And they really want to focus on the Spanish-speaking tax preparer. They estimate there's anywhere from 300,000 to 750,000 Spanish-speaking tax preparers that are going to be registered. You already have the CTEC tax school. If you start a website focusing on Spanish-speaking preparers, I can get you an interview with the National Stakeholder Liaison in Washington, D.C., and possibly get you on that group. That's a very exclusive group of 30 associations who meet with the top executives of the IRS once a month. I went, wow, that sounds great. So we started the website. I got my interview. We're now an officially recognized association with the IRS. If you go to irs.gov and type in Latino Tax Professionals Association, you'll see that we're a practitioner partner. So in 2010, we had our books ready. We had everything ready for the RTRP exam, and we did very well with that. So what I want to say, and during those years we've won several awards. It's been a challenge, but what I want to say to me and what I want to share with all of you is, to me, being a true entrepreneur is seeing an opportunity and taking advantage of it. Don't let opportunity slip you by. If you say, whoa, that sounds like a great idea, I should do this, do it. Now, some of your challenges are getting capital. That always seems to be the biggest problem. People don't want to lend you money when you need it. However, when you don't need it, everybody's knocking at the door wanting to give you a line of credit. So in the early days, you're going to have to learn how to run your business on your operating profits. You're going to have to learn to tighten your belt, do with a little bit less, but make sure you stay profitable. You're going to pay some taxes. I hate to pay taxes, but it's part of success. And that's how it is. Another thing is, how do you get a pipeline of qualified employees? You're not going to be able to grow your business unless you get quality, qualified, well-trained employees. Learn how to train others. We are a training company. When I hear college students coming up to me and saying, well, you know, I just can't get a job because I don't have any experience. My question is, why are you applying somewhere where you know you don't have the experience? So my advice to all of you students out there, if you're looking for a job, look for a job with a company who trains people. And there's a lot of them out there. We're one of them. So look for a job where you can get trained to do what you want to do. This way you have the experience. And always make your business attractive. Make it for sale. If you always think of, yeah, I want to make my business shiny, I want to make it pretty, I want to make it so that someone will come by and buy it, then you're always going to be thinking about how you can make it better. What can you do to improve yourself? And that's my advice to you today. Thanks.
All right. That was great. And as I said, we're 4 for 4 very different businesses, and a computer that has, oh, I see what happened. There we go. There we go. 4 very different businesses, 4 very different entrepreneurs and experiences and histories that got them there. So now we'd like to turn to the portion of our program where we give you, the audience, a chance to ask your questions. And we have some coming up here. Got a nice set. So we'll pose these to the group, and some of them will be aimed at particular people, and they can start. But I encourage everybody to chime in and add what you may have to add to this. So I need one more thing. So the first question, going to Ben. How did Yoderm generate customers, or how does Yoderm generate customers, and create awareness of the service, and are those both the same thing?
So
guess to answer that, just like make a distinction, I guess, between, for us, sort of like a brand awareness and actually understanding a paid marketing channel, and specifically what is the cost to acquire a customer. So for us in our company, being able to lead generate is an absolutely essential part of like what we consider a core competency. Without that, our business model doesn't work. So for us, we have to, in our early stages, be able to measure it right away. We have to understand like precisely what is the average cost to acquire a customer between each and every funnel. So for us to do that and do that well, we do what pretty much every online company does initially, and that's Google AdWords. Just to kind of give you like a general sense of how like that works. Don't ramble on too much. So Google AdWords essentially you pay per bid for the cost per click. So say it costs $4 for us for like online hacking treatment, right? And then we have a conversion rate on our side of our site, which is say it's 20%, right? So it's $4 for 20%. It's going to be a $20 cost to acquire a customer, right? But the thing is that you're not going to get 20% conversion rate. The average conversion rates are somewhere between 1 and 2% for online sites now. So you're looking at 150 times whatever that cost per click is. So if you're looking at, for us, adult acne treatment averages $4 to $5, right? Our cost to acquire a customer on those treatments, if we have an average conversion rate, right, is somewhere between, what is that, 250 to $500. So for us, we use Google AdWords, and then we have to measure every single term and every single, funnel to do it. That was a really long-winded answer, and I kind of went off there, but it's very
that's very helpful. And I'm struck by, again, we have 4 different businesses, each of which has a very different customer generation model. I'd love to hear, really from each of you, what does generating a new customer look like in your business? How do you go about it?
So for me, we look for, as I mentioned when I was speaking, we try to stay within a definition of what our company's core competencies are. And you can only build on that resume of core competencies by garnering a new business. But typically we try to look at what we consider to be our sweet spot. And there's all sorts of avenues to look for what's called request for information, or solicitations, or request for proposals. So there's websites, and there's different businesses that make it their business to show you what opportunities are out there in the federal market space. And we do data mining for the ones that are going to put conference here, and then either team with somebody if there's a gap on something that we aren't answering to. But we will turn in a proposal. The worry for us is that if we win something too large, we have to worry about payroll, we have to worry about the cost of doing that business. So currently we don't target anything that, if we're on our own, that's more than 10 full-time employees over a period of 3 to 5 years. And currently, Advanced Onion is at about 42 employees. So this year, based on what our glass half empty efforts are, as opposed to all the things that we want to do, we'll probably double in size. So.
For us, it's a little bit different. We are actually, we try and keep our how many customers we get a year down. In the past, we've really gone and chased every lead that we got, and it's changed a lot now. So we are very specific about who our ideal client is, and our ideal client is an age demographic, is an income level, is where they are in their life. And then we really have to then figure out where do they see things. For a contractor, it's really people aren't looking for it until they need it. You don't know if you need it until all of a sudden you okay, we need a kitchen, who do we call? So for us, we do a lot of research on where are these people, what's our ideal market on the peninsula, where are the ideal people, because again, for us, there's something that are too big. Our company would not survive real well working strictly in the preserve. It doesn't have a clientele that really is benefited by the services that we offer. Doing a 20,000 square foot house, which they are still building up there, is not something that speaks to how we can really work one-on-one with the homeowner. Now, someone who's doing a couple $100,000 home renovation on Highway 68, who still has to work every day himself, who relates to what it's like to have a job and work hard, that's an ideal client. So we look for those people. And the second process for us is we actually interview our clients to see if they're a good fit for us. So instead of chasing those leads down and then trying to win bids, we actually then interview the client and decide is it a good client for us to work with. Because again, we've set ourselves up to kind of philosophically only work well with certain people. There's some people we just can't serve well. We can't serve someone well that really doesn't appreciate the benefit to the style of business that we run. If I was to look into what it costs for us to acquire each lead or each project, I would probably have a heart attack. Because it takes a lot of effort for us to do that, but we are very specific. And when your goal is not to be competing with other people, you're measuring things a little bit differently. It's not, once that person calls you, 90% of the time they call you because they want to work with you. They don't want to see what price you might have to offer or putting it out to bid to see if you're the lowest bidder. They call you specifically. And so the return is almost 100%, but you have to wait till you get the right phone call. So again, it's being very specific about who your client is. Very different than clients. Because if I were to use that lead, Steve, there's no way. So that understanding your market is a huge part of it.
Yeah, when we started out, the way we grew our business was, first of all, establishing who is our ideal client. Who is going to be the person who wants to change, come to us instead of someone else. So you've got to understand your client. You probably already do a very good job, but how are you going to attract people to want to come to you? So once you establish that, then your next goal is, I need to go out and attract some clients. What I did was to get my accounting business started. I bought a good pair of walking shoes, got 500 business cards, and walked up and down the main street of Salinas, out South Street, Market Street, passing out business cards. Grassroots. I wouldn't even go to people's homes to prepare tax returns in the evenings. I did what I had to do to get it started. So if you're starting out as an entrepreneur, establish who your ideal client is, establish a way to get into their businesses first, then ask for referrals. It's a lot cheaper to retain your clients than to spend money to obtain clients. It's a lot cheaper to ask for referrals because referrals have a higher retention, a higher rate of coming in and staying with you. Of course, now we've evolved into a larger company. We do some mass media, but we still have the referral system. We still incentivize our preparers for referrals. And then our new company, Latino Tax Pro, we attend the IRS National Tax Forums. I'm one of the speakers for the IRS at these forums. And now that is a whole different model. That company, I would say our average acquisition rate for a client is about $150. So we know we're going to spend $150 to acquire a client. But then we turn around and go, what's our client lifetime value worth? Most clients will stay with you 5 to 10 years. So we estimate each one of our clients is worth anywhere from $500 to $1,000. So we have to spend our money carefully. This year, last year we tried a project where we did our own seminars. We did a few of them. We were on the road. We went to Houston, LA, New York, Miami, and Boston. Very successful. So this year we're going to, we've already budgeted to do about 15 of those seminars to get clients to come in. So as you evolve in your business, you're going to evolve the way you market your clients.
That's great, thanks. So next one starts with a comment that isn't a question, and the comment is, God bless Shawn and his wife. I think that's a great sentiment. So the question here is, Shawn, for those in the audience who would be interested in starting a nonprofit versus a for-profit business, and you've been doing both of those, what do you see as some key differences running one versus the other, or is it sort of the same?
For a while I said they were the same, because I said I ran a not-for-profit and a non-profit. One of them tried to profit. So there's, they both have the same outcome. Really, I think the biggest difference is your accountability to the people who are going to contribute to your nonprofit. So in good business, you have records of every penny that is worth for you that spend. Well, when it comes to a nonprofit, someone is giving you large sums of money to that person. It could be $25, it could be $150,000. You have to be able to show what you did with it, why you needed it, and then you also have to report back, basically so that they can get a tax deduction on it. Because in the long run, even if people are giving to your cause out of the generosity of their heart, there's always going to be part of it that's going to come back to them, and that's going to, worst case scenario, is a tax deduction. So I think that the records keeping, I think, is the hardest part that in the difference. Both of them were going to find who our market was. Even for the nonprofit, it was who understands this need, who has the ability to give to this cause, and how do we get in front of those people? It was just the same as going to get an actual client. But then it was turning it around and saying, you really don't get anything for this. So your why has to be big enough. But the big difference is really that importance of that record keeping, because you owe it to the people who really give you that money.
That's great, thanks. So a question directed at Yoder, but I'd be interested to hear from others if they have any response to this. Are there any patents associated with the service you provide? Do you guys have any patents over there yet?
Yeah. So, currently we're definitely pretty young, and we initially just really threw together a patent that was provisional, so we could go into investors and say we have a provisional patent, even though it was for a French company. It was this or nothing. Essentially, there was no way it was protected. There's no way we could have protected it or whatnot. But I think obviously a patent for it to be defensible, it has to be novel. And so the more that you know, the more that you dive into an entirely new arena, the better prepared you are to actually think of and then protect something that is novel, of course, right? And so for us, we continually find these new and novel kind of ideas and areas that then we do end up being a patent. Now, first off, a patent in general costs a minimum of about $10,000 to put together if you don't do it yourself, in terms of getting like a patent attorney. It's about 10K. You can pretty much just do 10K, 15 pretty decent, 20K if it's a lot, and who knows if you're like a massive company. So, for example, initially we had those, that dumb patent, and then we ended up, now we have 4 patents. I'll give you an example of one of them. So we believe that within telemedicine, and specifically what we do, which is called store and forward, so it's asynchronous. So essentially, it's like text messages, right? One thing that you really miss that's different than in a traditional doctor's office is the ability to have a conversation about the drug prices, which is that are going to be prescribed. For example, like a doctor says, hey, I'm going to prescribe you either doxycycline or minocycline, and this one's a little better, but it's more expensive, and this one's a little cheaper, but it still works. Like, which one do you want, right? So basically, what the system it's really only a patent. We haven't even implemented this entire system, but it's the ability to kind of hold a prescription online. So the doctor would actually be able to write, 6 or 7 prescriptions. You digitally store all these prescriptions, and then the patient is able to actually look, and you are able to see how much each one is. They actually select which one, and then you actually only send that one single prescription, right? It's kind of something you don't actually think like, wow, A, does that even exist? B, would that even have value? And to be honest, we know the first one isn't true. We don't know what the second one is. Isn't it? We put together, 6 or 7 of these patents already for ourselves. So for us, it's like, okay, let's bang out 15 hours of work just to get this thing done overnight, and it will hopefully marginally increase the intrinsic value of the company because of this novelty. And so we have probably I think we have 4 of those that are each kind of separate and different, kind of weird, but that's just one example.
We don't have any patents.
Okay, we do. We don't have patents, but we have copyrights and we have trademarks that we protect. And I highly recommend it. Pay an attorney to do it for you the first time. You'll find out how much money you just wasted doing it yourself. So pay attention how he does it or she does it, and it's really not that difficult on a trademark or a copyright. Now, patent, I have no idea. I never tried to patent anything. But copyright protect yourself. It's very important.
Advanced Onion has one patent and code on another patent, and it's a process. So I don't know what the original question was actually.
What's the role of patents?
Yeah. So the idea is to bring value to your company. So if you have something very unique and you plan on either one productizing it or using it in copyright situations, ours is a micro sensor that detects metal at a great distance for counter improvised explosive devices to feed capabilities. Sorry. Thank you. One of those. Yeah. that worked out. And then the other one is sorry for all this, subterranean target intelligence capability on geo sensors.
That's really So another one after that, a little reluctant to come directly back to you with the next question, but we'll be okay. You mentioned when you were talking about the term venture, did you say a venture capitalist company?
Right, because it's owned by the government. They're not in the venture capital business. The idea behind it, and this is not my company, this is obviously the CIA's company. The CIA has a venture catalyst arm that looks for technologies that satisfy requirements that are not only within the CIA, but across the entire intelligence community. So, but the idea behind it, just like in business school, is they don't want to be the only venture capitalist for the company. So you must, as a company or organization, present that you have commercial viability as a business, so that it's not only the government buttering your bread. And they represent all of the three other agencies that have interest in everything from geospatial intelligence technologies to human intelligence to big data and analytical stuff and et cetera.
Interesting. Here's a straightforward question. Good luck with this one, man. How much would people be willing to pay today to acquire Go-Dirt?
Very tough question. So we've had one equivalent acquisition offer today, and I'm not at liberty to say, but I mean, I can say that items are just like in ambiguity. If you look at pre-Series A, so there's C-Series, Series A, these are where you at, like on fundraising from VCs. Look at pre-Series A's valuations currently around the markets. That means you have basically a proof of concept, but not like insane traffic. You're looking at somewhere between $2.5 and $5 million valuation. And then if you actually get that traffic, and after you get that between $1 and $2 million in venture financing, you're looking at a valuation of somewhere between $10 and $17 million. And that's from something I read for basically the acquisitions going on and valuations going on in January. Just want to make a quick note that these are valuations based off of acquisitions, which are very different, but these are valuations mostly based off of fundraising, which can sometimes are very much at a discount to acquisitions. Acquisitions a lot of times are by strategic partners, so therefore they actually have an intrinsic value that will add actually value to their business and not just a financial return. So there tends to be a much larger premium on this. For example, if when WhatsApp was acquired from Facebook, WhatsApp didn't have any users itself, right? But the idea is that the actual marginal value that WhatsApp would provide to the huge valuation of Facebook is what allowed it to be required that much, as opposed to like them raising money. If that makes any sense.
That's very good. That's very interesting. Let me go to Carlos with a question about, so you set up as an enrolled agent, which is basically a job, and you parlayed that into a business. What had you decide that you wanted to grow it into a business rather than just making your own living from that?
Yeah, well, what happened was, like I said, my career was being a dad up until 2000 when I went to college. And I thought, well, you know what, I don't need to be a dad anymore. I don't need to go to 4 years of karate classes. I don't need to watch snowboarding up at Dodge Ridge. All that's now gone. And shortly after he left, I acquired 4 dogs because I had the empty nest syndrome. So I thought, you know what, let's do something different. Let's grow this. Why not? What else is there to do? So that's why. I hope that answers your question. Craziness has something to do with it. Insanity.
More than one entrepreneur has been accused of that repeatedly. Most of us are guilty. Some level of insanity here. So when you started your businesses, this starts out as a question for a specific one, but I'm going to pose it to all of you. This is probably different in each of your businesses. When you started out your business and you're deciding what direction to go with it, you had many different opportunities to look at here. How did you decide which of those opportunities were opportunities and which of them were distractions? Is that an arbitrary decision, or is there some way that you made that decision? How do you decide what's a good thing to pursue?
So, I mean, there's one clause in my world is, cut bait quick. And I've kind of heard it from everybody here. And there's different junctures based on different business models. But in us looking at the different type of opportunities we have, you can almost kind of feel, if you will, at what juncture you're wasting your time. Some of the opportunities you might salivate over because it's something that you absolutely want for your business, but if it's not going anywhere and it ultimately doesn't go anywhere, either slow or fast, you have to, again, know when to cut quick. It's trial and error, but our big thing is identify the ones that really fit your sweet spot and cut bait quick before you move forward.
Okay, so there's a lot of experimentation in the world of building jet engines. We call it build and busting.
Yeah.
And Thomas Edison approach.
So I guess the question is, how do we choose what to actually pursue? I think that for us, we try to maximize our likelihood of success because it is so small already. So it's really for us understanding what are going to be the largest factors that are going to increase our likelihood of getting to our next milestone. Isolating those, testing those, and then validating our assumptions. If they're wrong, then we have to rethink, we have to re-examine where we're at, and then we test them again. So this is basically like the lean, I guess, like startup methodology. It's like, I think that what we go through is definitely different than the other companies up here in the sense that we have to consider our fundraising and like the next round. So it's okay, what target do we have to hit in terms of, number of customers, in terms of the number of doctors, in terms of the number of states we cover, that are going to basically, quench the thirst of the investors. So okay, now we have this bar set. Now, what are each of the factors that are going to basically like increase the likelihood of that? And then what we do is we try to validate those based on the riskiest ones that are basically most likely to, actually increase our success, or the others, and hit them up one after the other after the other. I don't know if that answers it. Is that something?
I like following you.
what is the greater good in what this venture may be? And then it really goes along with that divine dissatisfaction that I spoke to, and that is this fulfilling a need that we have right now? Are we going to accomplish something with this? And I feel like we have to start a business almost every job, the way that we do it. We have to approach every project that we do for people as if we're restarting a business, because as soon as we're done, essentially you're out of work. You have to start the business again and go resell it again to somebody else. So it's very ingrained in us on what it is that we're trying to do and how we make those decisions. And it really does come down to, is there a greater good of all of us for our family and our company? And that is philosophical. We've chosen to run the company that way. And then for myself personally is that divine dissatisfaction. Am I going to accomplish something with this more than, hey, that family has a beautiful new home, they won't remember any of my employees' names, and chances are they won't refer us. But that doesn't accomplish a goal for me. So for us it's very different, but it starts, unfortunately, over every time we need a new project.
If I understand the question, I would say the other definition of an entrepreneur is trial and error. You're not going to be right all the time. We could spend the next 3 hours telling you all of my mistakes and how much they cost me. So you're going to make mistakes. Our very first venture into our first branch office, we went in there, we looked at it with the contractor who was in charge of it. You know, we made sure that it was suitable for us. We even, wanted to make sure we had heating, ventilating, air conditioning, HVAC. You know, the contractor showed us the thermostat on the wall, and he told us the building was 2,000 square feet. And this was somebody who had a good reputation in town, so I took him at his word. We moved in, we found out that the thermostat went nowhere. It wasn't even had wire, didn't even have wires on it. There was no HVAC on the roof. The building was actually 1,580 square feet. I signed a 3-year note for that. And when I went to confront him, I found out that my doctor was his partner. So I called my doctor and he goes, "Don't talk to me, talk to so-and-so." Wow. So we went through with that. So there's a lot of things you're going to get caught off guard. People out there sometimes aren't the best, but there's a lot of really good people out there. You're going to make mistakes. And I think that's what makes an entrepreneur, is making your mistake and keep moving forward. I can't even tell you in the early part of my career how many times I wanted to go back and work for my own boss. Because my second year in business, I ran out of money in November. I had no money to start tax season, and I almost picked up the phone to call him when I saw someone walking in the front door, came in and he goes, "I need some bookkeeping done for my business. I haven't done it for 2 years. How much would it cost?" So I looked it over and I said, "Let's see, I need $5,000. I said to myself, "I need $5,000 to make it through January. It'll be $5,000 up front." Okay, we'll wrote a check. I knew it. That was my business. So yeah, it's going to happen. A lot of prayer. Right, guys?
So this will be our last question for this, and this will be one you can have some fun with. It was, again, posed to one of you, but I'll pose it to everyone. Are you currently where you expected to be in your roadmap?
I'll start with that one. My answer is no. My roadmap was 4 generations of contractors. The last thing I was going to do was be a contractor. I was going to be a rock star. I had 2 record labels, and when my wife and I met, she had just shaved her head, and I had red hair and piercings, and was in a band. And so the answer is no. However, I'm where I am supposed to be, and I think that's the biggest difference, is we've landed where we're supposed to be, and we don't know where we're going. But still to this day, I have delusions of grandeur that I'm better at guitar than that guy.
Yeah, and I'd like to say regrets are a wasted emotion. If you're going to regret what you did, you're wasting your time and your energy. Learn from your mistakes and don't repeat them. Oh, no, I'm not where I thought I was going to be.
Next to random maintenance over here. Yeah. I'm not sure if the question was directed towards the business or myself personally. The business is kind of like, there's some light at the end of the tunnel you're always going for. You work as hard as you can, but I mean, who knows? I think that we can just accept a whole bunch of uncertainty and try to be as okay with it as possible. In terms of me personally, I think that at some point I realized I wanted to start something, but actually understanding what it took to do it, I think I'm so happy I was as naive as I was even 2 years ago to start this. In terms of where others thought it, I mean, my parents met at an AA meeting. I should probably be together or something. I'm doing the best I can, and yeah, I'm happy so far. I don't know if it's where I exactly imagine myself, but I mean, I'm just trying to be satisfied.
Absolutely not. And I didn't tell you a bunch of the rest of the story of in-betweens, but basically raised to, started off as a hippie in Mississippi, and a myriad of other little odd jobs that were in between all the things that might have sounded like it was okay. And on my own since I was 14, without folks, and I thought I was going to be a secret agent for the rest of my life and do all sorts of cool stuff, and then you get old. So I have 2 wonderful children and 2 grandbabies, and like others have said, it's the importance is what you end up finding out after you go through trials and tribulations, and yeah, there's no way to define what you're going to do or be, or what's really important to you later in life. And yeah, the answer is wonderful. It's a great ride.
That's great. Thank you very much. Thank you all for a great discussion. So that brings us to the end here. Although before we close, I'd like to take a moment to highlight some of the things that are coming up, events happening in the area. Thank you to the panel for a great job. Notes, the Startup Challenge is happening. We're in the thick of preparation for it. Applications are due on March 10th, which is coming up soon. So unless you're going to pull a Ben Holber and push your application together at 5:40, don't do that. No, that's not a good way to do it. But I encourage you all to take a look at the Startup Challenge and get it in there. Note that Ben used it as we would intend it to be used, that is, as a stepping stone to help him get his business together and get it started. Those two might still be sitting around talking about that they think they might have a good idea, and they not had the challenge to get them focused and actually put it together. We're going to have a great event here March 7th, which is a week from this Friday, if I remember my calendar correct. We're going to have a session on robotics and unmanned aerial vehicles. Yes, we are going to fly drones here at CSUMB. They will not be dropping bombs or delivering packages from Amazon. But the plan is to actually fly some drones on the quad. And so that's March 7th from 12 to 2. For more information, if you go to csumb.edu/innovation, and it'll have information on there. Do you want them to register for that?
No.
They can just show up?
Go to the quad.
Okay, just go to the quad at noon.
A little afternoon, because we're going to talk to the board. If they want to talk to the presenter, they can come into the Media Learning Center, but then we're going to go out to the
Okay.
demonstration.
Okay, the Media Learning Center, that's a building on campus. If you Google it, you'll find a map to there. The SBDC is doing one of its continuing series of workshops on starting a successful business. Actually, this is a new series that's been started here at the university specifically designed for college students to help you figure out how to start your own business. And this is particularly geared for students who are not business students, non-business students, who've got a business idea but have no idea how to get started with it. The other way to do it is hook up with a business student who knows how to get it started but might not have an idea. There's synergy there. Then the Ideas of March coming up, the weekend of March 14th to 16th, is an Android app development camp and competition. And again, more information about that innovation.csumb.edu. Notice that there are two very similar addresses here. One is csumb.edu/innovation, and the other one is innovation.csumb.edu, and they both go to the same place, right?
Right.
Yeah, so either one will get you there. Google Bootcamp will be, this is next fall, so we're looking into the future. The Google Bootcamp in the fall, learn how to become an app developer. And then we'll be doing our third startup weekend next January. So it's the last weekend in January we do that. And we encourage everybody to join the Monterey Bay Entrepreneurs and Innovators Meetup. And that's where you'll find all these things that are happening. They all get put on the meetup, and you'll receive announcements about them as they get scheduled. I encourage you to go there and sign up for that. I want to say a thank you to our financial sponsors of the day and of the Innovation Forum series, the SBDCs, and their various versions. The College of Business here at CSUMB, the Institute for Innovation and Economic Development here at CSUMB, and of course the SBDCs, including the Business and Entrepreneurship Center and the Youth Entrepreneurship Program up at Cabrillo College in Aptos. And that's so in the SBDCs, just so you know, and Shawn mentioned that they were an incredibly useful resource to him in getting his business rolling. There are two SBDCs in the area, one of which, the one in Salinas, serves Monterey County and the western half of San Benito County. I got that, my directions right. And that one is located in Salinas. The other one is located in Aptos at Cabrillo College, and they serve Santa Cruz County. So, with that, I believe we are to the end here. Thank you very much.